autism in the state of New Jersey, it's because a lot of people are moving to New Jersey in order to get better schooling, better education, better services for their kids. And there's just a lot more option of state-approved schools here that are for kids with special needs. And I want to explain that to you because I said state-approved schools. The IDEA mandates that if a school district determines that a child cannot be educated within a regular school environment, within a regular public school environment, they are responsible to place the kids into a private school that is considered to be a state-approved school. What it means is the state usually goes in, takes a look at their program, determines if their curriculum is appropriate in compliance with what it should be, and they then mandate that school state approved. If the school district seeks to place a child in a non-state approved school, it has to be judicially sanctioned by the court. It has to be approved by the courts in order for the parents to place, for the school district and the parents, it's usually a collaborative effort, to place the kids in a school that may not be state approved.
This is a good review of what the law is and tells the audience what some of their rights are. But now let's talk for a few moments about what you actually do. As a lawyer, how do you get involved? What is it that you do to help advocate for these parents, for these children? Tell us a typical case.
Sure. A typical case, cases vary. Depends on the age of the child. For example, I just had one case that I still presently have a case that I'm working on. And what this case entailed was a child that attended kindergarten, first grade, and second grade within the school district. The parent had requested for the child to be evaluated by the child study team in order to determine whether the child would be eligible for special education and related services. Why? Because the child wasn't progressing academically. On the progress report that each parent receives throughout the school year, there are areas, and they're usually numbered. There's different areas, and there's one area that I think parents should particularly pay attention to. It's called behaviors that support learning, or something within that verbiage. And then it's graded. There's, they can get a 1 or a 2 or a 3, and I think a 3 is the highest, where they're succeeding and they're performing on level with their peers. This child was getting all 1s in that area.
Which is the lowest threshold.
Which it's not the very lowest, but it's second to the lowest. And what it was the child sometimes meets the level of his or her peers in performing. So in that case, my personal feeling was that the school district should have picked up on it and had the child evaluated, because if the child is not learning how to write or read or do mathematics on level with their peers, the educator they have an obligation to actually see this and say, why is this child dragging behind, or why isn't this child doing on level with the rest of their peers? Maybe there's something going on. And so this parent, the school district did not initiate an evaluation on their own. So this parent had finally obtained an evaluation. I came in during the process of when the child had been evaluated by the school district, and we were going into the evaluation planning meeting. Well, the evaluation planning meeting takes place first, where the parents sit down with the school district and they say, the school district says, okay, we're going to evaluate your child. These are the evaluations that we think are appropriate for your child. And it's usually an educational evaluation. They give them a battery of standardized tests to see how they're performing in writing and in reading and in mathematics, or what may be getting in their way of, excelling academically.
Right.
So by the time that I came in, we were already going into the meeting where the school district was going to announce whether or not the child would be classified.
So you get involved before you go to court, before you're filing papers?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's often more effective for parents to get an attorney involved to advocate on their behalf with the school district that knows what the parental rights are, and that knows what the child's disabilities are. Because what happened in this case was my client had gone out and obtained a pediatric neurodevelopmental evaluation that clearly specified.
Tell us that again. It's a pediatric neurodevelopment evaluation.
Yes.
What is that?
What it is there are pediatric neurologists that evaluate kids. They're pretty much, there's always a neurodevelopmental evaluation that should go into play when a parent suspects that their child has a disability, because it could be something that, for example, auditory processing. is one area where the child may be having a difficult time. Cognitively, they're fine, but it's the way that they're receiving information. And what it is their right and left brain hemispheres are not balanced. So when information is being delivered to children with auditory processing issues, verbally, all they may be hearing is noise or fuzz, or they can't focus, or something is going on. And that can be fixed with auditory training, where they're specifically trained to listen to information that's delivered to them visually, or some parents choose to medicate their children. But there has to be a particular approach to educating a child with, for example, an auditory processing disorder.
Right.
Because if they're sitting in the classroom and they're hearing information that they're not able to receive or retain, that's where they start falling behind. And that's where they start losing their fundamental skills in writing, in reading, in learning. But if that issue is caught early enough and the child is trained and educated with the multisensory approach, which means that they can have a lot of visual clues or visual support, or the teacher will present things to them visually and say, this is what we're doing, are you getting this, did you get this, or their homework is given to them in a different manner. Sometimes they may need one-on-one support or help.
Does their
or
shadow
small
that
group.
we spoke about when we spoke earlier about a shadow, would the shadow help on that one-on-one, or would there be another aid?
Well, the thing is that I don't know if a child like that would necessarily receive a shadow, but what they would maybe get as part of their services is one-on-one work where maybe for an hour or 45 minutes a day, depending on how severe their disability is, a teacher would sit down with them and teach them one-on-one and make sure that they are getting the information intended and that they are understanding it, and then they're able to progress academically. Because that's where a lot of issues come in, when the child is not able to progress academically and they're just sitting in the classroom and things are kind of like flying past them, and then as they get older, it's more and more and more difficult to catch up. But to go back to my case, what had happened in my case was, under the IDEA, when the initial evaluations are conducted by the child study team, they're supposed to look at all areas of suspected disability for a child. In this particular situation, the child study team had failed to order a central auditory processing evaluation. The neurologist, my client had obtained a neurodevelopmental evaluation, as I mentioned to you. And in that evaluation, the doctor had specifically stated that he believes that there's an auditory processing issue which causing this child to have a significant language impairment. It causes her difficulties with talking with other kids and retaining information herself that's being presented to her in the classroom. And we had gone in and had several conversations, several letter writing with school district in order for them to